Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's story is one that will stay with you long after the video ends. It's emotional, shocking, and filled with twists no one sees coming. This is the unbelievable story of a poor single dad, a powerful billionaire, and a photograph that changed everything. That the rain was falling hard that evening, soaking through the thin jacket of a man named Daniel. He stood outside the massive iron gates of a mansion so large it looked more like a palace than a home. Marble pillars, golden lights, and guards at the entrance reminded everyone who passed by that unimaginable wealth lived inside. Daniel held his daughter's small hand tightly. She was barely 6 years old, her shoes worn, her coat too big because it had been donated. Daniel had not planned to come here. In fact, he had avoided this place for years. But fate had a cruel way of forcing people to face the past. Daniel was once a happy husband and father. His wife, Emily, was the love of his life. They had met when they were young, dreaming of simple things, a small home, honest work, laughter at the dinner table. Life was never easy, but they were happy. Then everything changed. Emily fell sick. Hospital bills piled up, debts crushed them, and one day, Emily was gone. Or at least, that's what Daniel had been told. The doctors said complications. The paperwork said death. Daniel never even got to say goodbye properly. He was handed ashes and condolences, and his world collapsed. From that day on, he became a single father, working 2 jobs, sometimes 3, just to keep food on the table. Nights were the hardest. His daughter would ask about her mother, and Daniel would smile through the pain, telling her stories about how beautiful and kind her mom was. Years passed. Life was a constant struggle. Then one day, Daniel got a temporary job as a cleaner at a luxury event. It was being held at the very same mansion he stood in front of now. He remembered that night clearly. Chandeliers sparkled above his head. Wealthy guests laughed freely, and he felt invisible. As he carried trays and cleaned tables, his eyes wandered across the walls filled with priceless art and photographs. That's when he saw it. A large framed photo hanging in the main hall. A woman stood beside the billionaire owner of the mansion, smiling softly. Daniel froze. His heart nearly stopped. It was Emily, his wife. The same smile, the same eyes, the same face he thought he had lost forever. At first, he told himself it was impossible. Maybe someone who looked like her. Maybe his grief was playing tricks on him. But deep inside, he knew that was his wife. Before he could react, a supervisor yelled at him to keep moving. Daniel said nothing that night. He went home shaken, unable to sleep. The image burned into his mind. Days turned into weeks, but the question haunted him constantly. Why was his wife's photo inside a billionaire's mansion? That question brought him here tonight. The guards stopped him immediately. They looked him up and down, seeing only a poor man and a child who clearly didn't belong. Daniel swallowed his fear and spoke calmly. He said he needed to speak to the owner. He said it was urgent. The guards laughed at first, but Daniel refused to leave. Something in his eyes made one of them hesitate. After an hour of standing in the rain, soaked and exhausted, the gates finally opened. A luxury car pulled in, and out stepped the billionaire himself, Mr. Richard Hale. He was known worldwide, ruthless in business, powerful, untouchable. Richard looked at Daniel with annoyance. "What is this?" he asked. Daniel's voice trembled, but he spoke clearly. "Sir, I just need to ask one question. Why is my wife's photo in your mansion?" The air went silent. Richard's expression changed instantly. Shock, confusion, then anger. He demanded to know who Daniel was and how he dared to say such a thing. Daniel explained everything. He spoke of Emily, of their life, of her supposed death. He spoke with honesty and pain that couldn't be faked. Richard stared at him for a long moment. Then, without saying a word, he turned and ordered Daniel to follow him inside. The mansion doors closed behind them. Daniel's daughter clung to his hand, scared but curious. They were led to a private room. Richard poured himself a drink, his hands slightly shaking. Finally, he spoke. The woman in the photo was named Anna, he said. She had been brought to him years ago after a serious accident. She had no memory of her past. No family, no identity. Doctors said she suffered from severe amnesia. Richard funded her treatment, protected her, and over time, she became a part of his life. Not as a lover, but as someone he felt responsible for. Daniel felt dizzy. "Where is she now?" he asked. Richard hesitated. Then he said words that felt unreal. "She's alive. She's upstairs." Daniel broke down. Tears streamed down his face as years of grief crashed over him. His daughter looked confused, asking if they were talking about her mommy. Moments later, footsteps echoed in the hallway. A woman entered the room. Older, more elegant, but undeniably Emily. She looked at Daniel with unfamiliar eyes. No recognition. No warmth. Daniel whispered her name. She frowned. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" The pain was unbearable. But Daniel didn't push her. He showed her photos from their past, told her stories only she would know. Slowly, something changed. Her hands trembled. Tears formed in her eyes. Memories flooded back in broken pieces. The truth finally surfaced. Years ago, Emily had collapsed and was taken to a private medical facility secretly funded by Richard's company. A corrupt doctor declared her dead on paper to cover up malpractice. Richard believed he was helping a stranger. Daniel believed he had lost his wife forever. The truth destroyed everyone in that room. Richard fell to his knees, realizing what his wealth had unknowingly stolen. He promised to make things right. The corrupt doctors were exposed. The hospital faced justice. Emily chose to leave the mansion and return with her real family. Rebuilding wasn't easy. Years were lost. Pain couldn't be erased. But love survived. Richard did something no one expected. He publicly admitted his mistake, funded Daniel's education, helped him start a business, and created a foundation in Emily's name to protect vulnerable patients. The story spread worldwide. People realized that money can hide the truth, but it can't bury it forever. Daniel's life changed, not because of wealth, but because he never stopped believing in the love he lost. And sometimes, the answer to one impossible question can change everything. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Stories like this remind us that even in a world ruled by power and money, the truth always finds a way to come out.